In Call of Duty Zombies, there are a number of cardinal sins that can be committed by players in public matches, whether it's someone being greedy by not opening doors, quitting the game as the host, having a terrible mic, or just being outright incompetent. But perhaps the most egregious of public lobby crimes can be found on Dead Ops Arcade 3, whenever a player decides to exit a deadly dungeon via the ladder in the starting room. This lapse of judgment becomes particularly problematic whenever the dungeon actually has something of value worth exploring for, whether it's a bunch of rooms with loot and XP, or especially when there's a Margwa icon on the minimap, signifying that there's an extra fate stone up for grabs. Who wouldn't want to be double fated in the early rounds? Well, apparently the answer is a shit ton of people. Unless everyone in the lobby has functioning headsets and not an unhealthy amount of earwax, then you have almost no way of spending more than 10 seconds in a given dungeon before one of the randoms takes it upon themselves to exit the room.
This yellow guy is such a fucking cool dude. Fuck this guy. I'm out.
I'm like, what do you say fuck me for?
Now, let me put myself in the shoes of one of these inexperienced players for just a moment. I could see why some people might be inclined to leave these dungeons immediately. First of all, the name of the damn area is called a Deadly Dungeon, which doesn't exactly sound welcoming. Secondly, I wouldn't necessarily expect newer players to know what the icons in the minimap represent, and what the implications of those icons would be. There could be 10 Margwa icons on the minimap, and that just might not mean anything to them. Or, even if they did explore the dungeon a bit and stumble upon a Margwa, their natural reaction would be to run away from it, rather than closely examine this unassuming room and maybe notice the presence of a fate stone that usually has poor lighting. I mean, look at this clip. Even with the most advanced forms of Dead Ops sign language being employed, none of the randoms could even see this piece of divine shite. Now, thirdly, and probably the most notable reason for why these DUA NPCs exit the dungeon in a moment's notice, is because of the way the exit mechanic is designed. The design of it is so fundamentally flawed that I'm actually a bit surprised it was never changed. And I suppose I'm at fault for that as well, because I never quite understood how prominent the issue was, as I wasn't exactly a staple to the pub scene when the game was new. When I did play public matches back then, usually the host would just migrate before we even had a chance to step foot in the wild, and migrations would either slow down your player back then, which was almost an immediate rage quit, or what sometimes still happens is a host migration will just result in instantaneous termination of the match at hand. Not to mention that despite having some of the best internet east of the Mississippi, I somehow have a near 0% chance of securing hosts in a public match, simply because I play on PC. But Cold War will happily hand over the executive hosting privileges to Mr. Mickey D's Wi-Fi, who usually provides me upwards of 1000 ping, or even 1400% packet loss. Yeah. Who would have thought that packet loss could somehow exceed 100%? You truly learn something new every day in the lower depths of DUA matchmaking hell. Anyways, back to the exit mechanic with ladders. The way the system is configured, you could have 3 of the most distinguished players in the community, and all it would take is one individual with one thumb to exit the dungeon and strip away any hopes and dreams you had of encountering those oh so sweet Margwa cheeks. I mean, look at this ladder. It's the only thing that glows in the starting room apart from a potential key or an extra life. And it doesn't even say the word exit near it, even though the other ladder in the dungeon has the exit text. So for the starter room, some of these players just assume this ladder is a shiny item pickup.
Yeah, the ladder exits the dungeon.
Oh, whoops. I did not realize that was what that was. I saw a glowing object.
Now, there is a feature in the game that ever so slightly mitigates the exit issue, much the same way that applying a standard band-aid on a gunshot wound aims to stop the bleeding. On co-op matches, there is a roughly 5-second delay before the ladder appears. At first, I was like, oh, this delay is kind of commendable. Then I realized the delay sometimes happens on solo as well, so it's really just a ladder item taking a while to load in while the dungeon is being randomly generated on the spot. So, not exactly a feature. Now, this 5-second time window is nowhere near enough, as players are usually perplexed when they get warped into a dungeon and think that they're in an escape room challenge. So most of the time, they end up touching every corner of the area and then accidentally hit the ladder whenever it finally appears. But the concept here is good, and one possible solution to the inherent problem would have been to delay the ladder's appearance closer to 20 seconds, with this feature not carrying over to private matches, where you might be more inclined to immediately exit the dungeon if you realize there's nothing worth searching for. Other possible solutions: the exit from the dungeons could have been something a bit more discreet. For example, it's not exactly uncommon for players to exit some of the other bonus rooms in the game, since the exits are in the same location as the entrances. You'll sometimes enter a kaboom room and the players decide to go back from where they came from, before anyone could pick up a single nuke. I'm left wondering what happened to the bonus room feature from DUA 2, where the exit was temporarily unavailable, allowing players to quickly gear up before a player decided to go goblin mode. But a bonus area like Akari Exit on DOA 3 actually did things fairly well, where the beginning exit is a bit more obscurely located, but once you know where it is, you could always leave the area very easily. So it's a bit like IKEA. You could get very easily lost, but once you know the ins and outs, you're good to go. But the initial area of Akari, along with the unique camera angle, work to the advantage of the player and are quite ingenious. Even if you're a pub player whose IQ is lower than their highest round, you have the clear view available in front of you to recognize that there's zombies, loot, and other mysteries that lie ahead. So even if you happen to notice the exit area over here to the left, you're almost always going to naturally gravitate instead to where the action is taking place and explore the area. So maybe something like that for dungeons could have worked well, where it's not a shiny ladder. Get rid of the baskets over here or move them around somewhere else where the player is compelled to actually travel through the gate over here, rather than being baited into hanging around the starting area and touching the ladder. The ladder itself could have been more like an actual ladder against the wall that you need to climb for a bit. So once you start ascending it, you can sort of get the idea you're about to go somewhere else and then have the option to slide back down and return to the dungeon. All these ideas are well and nice, but perhaps the best solution I've heard of, and this one I like a lot, is a voting system. Think of the exfil or rampage inducer features from Cold War Zombies. Player hits the beginning ladder, then a UI prompt appears asking if the other players would like to leave as well. A majority vote would be needed, so 3 of 4 players would have to vote yes for the ladder to work. Fun fact, a feature like this was almost introduced back in DUA 2 for utilizing teleporters at the end of arenas. A Twitter poll was made by the DUA dev at the time, and players actually voted in favor of adding such a feature, but it was ultimately never implemented. Which is not a bad thing, since the feature had its flaws, but I think for something like dungeons, a voting system would have been good to see. Even if I got outvoted in a dungeon by some fools with 0 lives, at least I know there is some level of agency for the decision, even if it involved them mindlessly spamming their D-pad.
Alright. Come on, Red. Follow. No, Red, follow this way. Come on this way. Come on. No. No!
Red ain't too bright, is he?
It's pointless, man.
Anyways, that about wraps up this video on Snakes and Ladders. If any viewers have suggestions for fixes to the issue that they think would have been solid in retrospect, feel free to leave a comment down below. Don't forget to drop a like if you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.
So no one told you pubs was gonna be this way. Your ping's a joke, you croaked, your teammates AFK. It's like these fools cannot see or hear when they get minced by the 6-arm shield blast or even his spear. But I'll donate to you. Don't forget to skip the door. I'll donate to you. Time to get a new high score. I'll donate to you. Don't forget Gustavo too. The randoms hit the ladder. There goes our mark. What fate? They spent a key on the cage. Things are going great. Till Funk warned you there'd be games like these. But he didn't tell you in the wild has brought you down to your knees. That I'll donate to you. I've seen this greed before. I'll donate to you. When the gyms start to pour, I'll donate to you. After your ass hits the floor.